When someone asks, "Where did Santa Claus come from?" it sounds like a simple question, but the answer is surprisingly deep. Because Santa Claus did not come from a single source. He is a character formed by layers: historical, religious, folkloric, literary, and finally, commercial. And if we want to speak with honesty and maximum credibility, we need to separate four things. 1. Well-documented history. 2. Tradition. 3. Regional folklore. 4. Popular hypotheses, the weaker ones. Today, you will see all the most cited lines of origin, without simplifications, without easy myths. The most solid historical foundation of Santa Claus begins with a real figure, Saint Nicholas of Myra, a Christian bishop from the 4th century, connected to the region of present-day Turkey. Many stories about him were embellished over time. That is common with deeply venerated figures. But the essential idea remains strong. Saint Nicholas became marked in Christian memory as a symbol of generosity, protection, and care for the vulnerable, especially children. And this is where a decisive detail enters: the connection between Saint Nicholas and gifts. There is a well-known tradition, repeated through the centuries, that says Nicholas helped a poor family discreetly, delivering money without revealing himself. This narrative, even when it cannot be proven in every detail, has an important historical function. It explains why Saint Nicholas became, in popular devotion, a giver, someone associated with quiet help, charity, and care for children. And now a point many people do not know. For a long time in many regions of Europe, the custom of giving gifts to children was not on December 25th. It centered on St. Nicholas Day, December 6th, or the Eve. This shows that the gift-giving figure existed before the modern Christmas Santa. The calendar moved later, but the root is there. The next layer is one of the most important, and also one of the most traceable. In the Netherlands and Belgium, Saint Nicholas becomes a cultural figure called Sinterklaas. It is a strong tradition with its own rituals and gifts for children in early December. And here a decisive historical event happens. Dutch colonists bring customs to New Amsterdam, which later becomes New York. Over time, the name Sinterklaas is adapted into English until it becomes Santa Claus. This point is crucial because this is where the European tradition gains a new stage. An urban, multicultural world, with press, literature, and mass culture ready to fix the character. At the same time as the St. Nicholas to Sinterklaas line grows, England has another figure, Father Christmas. And what is interesting is, at first, Father Christmas was not the gift deliverer. He was the personification of Christmas as the spirit of celebration, abundance, food, joy, community, festivity. As time passed, especially in the modern era, this figure drew closer to the role of giving gifts, and the traditions ended up mixing. This is an important credibility point. There was not a single father of Santa Claus. There were parallel lines that met. Now we reach the phase where Santa gains a script. Because it is one thing for a generous saint to exist or a cultural symbol of Christmas. It is another thing to have a character with fixed details, repeatable, recognizable anywhere. In the early 19th century, works and cultural references in New York helped popularize and romanticize the Dutch heritage tied to St. Nicholas. This made room for the character to grow as a cultural symbol. In 1823, an extremely influential poem known as A Visit from St. Nicholas helped consolidate elements that today seem eternal. A nighttime visit, gifts, entry through the chimney, a sleigh and reindeer. From here, it is no longer just a saint. It is a complete narrative figure. Then, still in the 19th century, illustrator Thomas Nast plays a central role. He helps shape the popular visual of Santa, the cheerful bearded man, with a universe of his own. When mass culture begins repeating the same kind of image, it stops being just art and becomes a cultural standard. In the 20th century, Santa Claus stops being only a figure in stories and engravings. He becomes a character physically present in department stores, at events and photos with children, in major urban traditions like parades. This fixes Santa Claus as part of the modern family Christmas. And now, one of the most famous points, and one of the most distorted. Did Coca-Cola invent Santa Claus? No. What is documented is that, starting in 1931, Coca-Cola commissioned ads with illustrator Haden Sundblom, which helped consolidate a very specific version, a warm, human, cheerful Santa with a consistent appearance. So the correct formulation is, it did not create the character from scratch, but it helped standardize and spread globally a visual that became dominant. Another detail that proves how traditions can be manufactured and then seem ancient, the reindeer Rudolph appeared in 1939 as a promotional creation for a store. And then, with cultural success, he became part of the Christmas imagination. This shows how the modern Santa is a living organism. He absorbs new elements and turns them into tradition. Now, a point that must be said with precision, so we do not fall into simplifications. It is true that many ancient cultures, Roman and Northern European, had winter festivals, lights, banquets, symbols of hope, and sometimes gifts. But it is not correct to say that Santa Claus came directly from these festivals. What they provide is the cultural ground. Winter, the need for light, the idea of community, abundance, and generosity. In other words, this explains the symbolic atmosphere of Christmas. But the strongest line of Santa Claus remains St. Nicholas and his branching European traditions. If you want a complete lesson, you need to know. The winter gift giver exists in many cultures. Santa became the most global, but he is not the only one. In Central Europe, there is reward and punishment. Krampus, a folkloric figure linked to the St. Nicholas period, with a darker tone. Knecht Ruprecht and other regional companions. Germanic variations associated with childhood discipline. Here, a credibility clarification is worth making. These figures are not the origin of the kind Santa. They show an old structure, reward and correction in the childhood imagination. In German traditions migrating to America, there is Belsnickel, a more severe figure preserved by immigrant communities. In the Slavic and Russian world, there is Ded Moroz, Grandfather Frost, associated with winter gifts with its own cultural trajectories. In Italy, there is La Befana, tied to Epiphany, with gifts traditionally on January 6th. In the Iberian world and Latin America, there are the Three Wise Men, or Three Kings Day. Gifts and customs also concentrated in the Epiphany cycle. In Iceland, there are the Yule Lads, 13 figures, with gifts, or symbolic punishments, placed in shoes. In Scandinavia and surrounding areas, there is the Yule Goat or Julebok, a tradition with its own history, now very decorative, but culturally striking. And in Catalonia, there is Tio de Nadal, a family and ritual custom of community gifts. What this proves is simple. Christmas, in cultural practice, has always been a great umbrella, and each people created its images to speak of hope, generosity, discipline, community, and renewal. Now I will include what many people ask, but with the care to separate evidence from imagination. There is the idea that Northern European myths, such as winter narratives and figures that cross the sky, could have influenced the imagination. This can generate cultural parallels, but it is not the main documented origin of modern Santa Claus. Another popular theory connects elements of Santa, colors, reindeer, winter, with shamanic practices and specific mushrooms. It is cited in popular science texts, but it is not historical consensus and is usually treated as speculative. So yes, these are theories that circulate, but when we speak of documentary weight, they fall far below. St. Nicholas, plus European traditions, plus 19th century literature and art, plus 20th century media. Let's fix this in a clear timeline. 4th century, St. Nicholas, a historical figure who becomes a symbol of generosity. Following centuries, European traditions form around December 6th. 17th century, Dutch colonists bring Sinterklaas to the world that becomes New York. 1823, the poem consolidates chimney, sleigh, and reindeer in the popular imagination. 1863 onward, Thomas Nast shapes the iconography of modern Santa. Turn of the 19th and 20th century. Stores and public events make Santa part of retail and urban ritual. 1931. Coca-Cola and Sunbloom consolidate a globally recognizable visual. 1939. Rudolph is born as a promotional creation and enters the Christmas universe. So, where did Santa Claus come from? The most correct answer is modern Santa Claus is a fusion of the historical St. Nicholas, especially through Sinterklaas, with the cultural personification of Christmas, Father Christmas, shaped by literature and the press in the 19th century, and globally standardized by mass culture in the 20th century. And when you understand this, you realize he is not a simple myth. He's a portrait of centuries of human history, charity, childhood, community, winter, hope, and also commerce and popular culture. Now tell me in the comments, which of these origins surprised you most? If this message touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and leave your like. Your support helps this message reach even more hearts. God bless you.